So let's start at the top. We were just
All right.
talking about how much head coaching matters when you look at Purdue. And my goodness, have their failures in the NCAA tournament been terrible? So when you look at a team like that, does it make you nervous to take a coach like Matt Painter, who has been there and who has failed? I'm not going to say miserably, but when you lose to small schools like that, and now it's the running joke about Purdue basketball, is this a team that you would have your questions about backing?
Yes, there's no way I want to trust Purdue at all. Like, they've been in a perfect position to get things done in the past couple seasons, like you were talking about, and they just haven't done it. Now they had the best player in the country in Zach Edey, so there's always a possibility. There is a reason why they're the favorites. The number is the number. But ultimately, I need to see a team, at least make a run. That's the thing. It's one thing to, okay, you make a run, you get to the Final Four, you get to the Elite Eight, whatever, and it doesn't work out for you. It's quite another to have incredible regular seasons and then get the boot early on. So I like the value elsewhere. There's no way I'm trusting the Boilers.
Especially since they're the favorites. Like, it would be one thing if they weren't the favorites and you say, okay, you maybe take that narrative and if you're getting value, but still it's tough. And let me preface this by saying, I think it's really tough to pick a winner in college hoops because it has the most volatility, I feel like, of just about any championship that we see across sports. But here's one trend that we've seen over the years. Since the year 2002, every national champion has had at least a top 40 offense and at least a top 25 defense. When you see a trend like this, is this something that you would follow very closely and say, hey, if there's a team that I like that is not in this like grid, I'm not taking them? Or do you think all trends are trends, but you still have to look at other factors?
I think it's something you strongly consider. I wouldn't rely on it exclusively, but trends are what they are for a reason. And I really lean on defensive-minded teams this time of year. Like, I like Houston a lot. I liked them last year, and they've been so close. So there's a difference between a Purdue, which has gotten eliminated early, and Houston, which has been on the precipice of maybe winning it all. And what was it? I guess it was last week over the weekend when Houston played Kansas State a few days ago. And Jerome Tang said after the game, talking about the Cougars, this might be the best defensive team I've ever seen. That's a direct quote from him. So when you have a great college coach who's seen a lot of basketball before, he was at K-State, Jerome Tang was at Baylor, and he says, I've seen a lot of basketball. This might be the best defensive team I've ever seen. Defense always travels. So those are the teams I like to back because Houston can score as well. But defense is a thing that you can always play whether you're hot or not. And that's something that I focus more on that, I would say, than anything else come tournament time.
Yeah, let's dive into that for a second. Because if you look at this trend, every team has been in the top 25 of defense and only the top 40 of offense. So I think that goes to the point that you're saying. And think about the format of March Madness. I think this is exactly what you were saying, in that you can survive a night of cold shooting if your defense is always there to play. Doesn't it feel like defense is more repeatable? Because obviously there's some volatility when it comes to shooting. Even if you're a great offensive team, sometimes the shots just aren't going to fall, especially from the three-point line. And that's why it's tough for me to back teams that rely really heavily on the three-point ball. Whose game lines up really well with this style of course, and maybe with also the recent play?
Yeah, how about this guy? Out of nowhere, by the way, Adam Hadwin has a combination of really good course history and good recent form. So that's two conversion trends that you really want to see here. And I've got him for a top rest of world player here this week at 14-1 over at BetMGM, coming off a T6 at the American Express, finishes of T16 or better in his last 6 starts. The putting has been elite. And how about this? He's the second best approach player at Pebble with a minimum of 12 rounds. You would not expect Adam Hadwin to be that guy, but he is. So he's a horse for course for me this week. Top rest of world player at 14-1.
Cam, when you're handicapping this, and you mentioned the weather, so who are some of the players based on that handicap, based on the conditions that you liked maybe for a top 10 finish, or someone to look out for because they're going to be able to keep it tee to green in the fairway and not make mistakes because Pebble Beach will punish you, particularly when the weather is bad?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the driver is mitigated here this week just because you are basically forced to lay up in a lot of these spots, whether it is man-made obstructions or nature just being in the way. So this feels like a Spiethy kind of week. Jordan Spieth, top 10, plus 160, right? Second in the field in strokes gained approach and strokes gained around the green. So great combination there. 3 top 10s in his last 4 starts here at Pebble Beach. Third place at the Century Tournament of Champions as well. Something tells me it's going to be a grinded out, messy affair. So Spieth, top 10. I like Matt Fitzpatrick for a top 20, plus 115. You want to think about difficult conditions. Matt Fitzpatrick thrives in those. He's not a long hitter. T6 2 years ago here, T12 at the U.S. Open here back in 2019. So I think he is a solid bet at plus money for a top 20 here this week.
How much do you attribute that to having been there before? Because when you talked about the Ravens, I think you're absolutely right. Part of it was game plan, but that had to do with panic. They panicked in the moment, where with the Chiefs, they were loose. They were messing around before the game. They seemed completely calm and aware in the moment. And I feel like that has helped them maybe more than anything.
Yeah, that's where I think 3 individuals in particular come to mind that really stabilize his team. Obviously, Patrick Mahomes and the success that he's already had in his career in the postseason, where he does take it up a notch and also protects the football way more. I mean, you take a look at the mistakes he made in the regular season. They just don't happen in the postseason. And that, I think there's an adjustment there, a sense of calm that he presents for the huddle. Travis Kelce, as we just talked about, has obviously been in these situations plenty. And then Andy Reid. I mean, the guy has been in, what is it now? 12 conference title games or something crazy like that, 10 conference title games, and obviously here we go with another Super Bowl. So I think those 3 individuals, there's a trickle-down effect of calm that they present that goes across the entire team. And when you're like that and you're not panicking even if you get down, that is just a situation you can't replicate if you're a team, like Baltimore, Lamar Jackson playing in your first AFC title game. And so I know sometimes it's tough to balance how much does the experience matter? How much does it just matter, hey, if you're just flat out better? And in this case, I think it has mattered going on the road. If you told me that, all the talk about Patrick Mahomes having to go on the road for the postseason for the first time, it was a team that maybe hadn't been in the postseason period before. I think that was a much bigger deal. I think the whole road stuff was a fun storyline, but was made out to be way more than what it was. It wasn't like anybody thought Patrick Mahomes was going to turn into a pumpkin once he went on the road. And if anything, he played some of his best football.